first known rules of golf were drawn up in 1744 by the Gentlemen Golfers of Edinburgh in Leith, Scotland. Since then, the game has changed dramatically. Golf courses, equipment, and not least the rules. So where do I go when I want to learn about the rules of the game today? Well, I go to the Golf Rules Questions podcast with Blakey and Roscoe, of course. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this episode of the Golf Rules Questions podcast.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Golf Rules Questions podcast, episode 72, with myself and Stuart as co-hosts this week. It's been a little break. We've had a little break away from the airwaves, but now we're back. Hey Stuart, how are you?
Yeah, good, Blakey. Great. Very happy to be here.
Yeah, you're the one that's had a bit of a break. So how was it? Very good?
Very good, thank you. Just got home 2 days ago from Los Angeles. Yeah, had a nice week and a half away on holiday. Now, of course, sorry, I should just add, but now we've got summer coming up, and we know golf just in this country, so far as events is concerned, really amps up, picks up, especially with the Australian Open coming up soon. So just full on, we've just come back into full on golf, haven't we? Golf activity and events and what have you. A lot of stuff coming up.
Yeah, and it looks like a pretty big calendar on the PGA Tour of Australasia. That's it. The Australasian Tour. Some pretty good, robust tournaments on there. So, and it's on TV now. So, good up to them for getting it on TV on the Saturday and Sunday. So, what do we got to? First, we got the GRQOTW for 71. Can you repeat what that was from last week?
I can, and there's a bit involved this one, a bit complex. So Andy, the average golfer, sprays his tee shot right on the fourth hole at Wombat Hills, and his ball comes to rest in thick bushes. I think everyone's with us so far. He decides to take unplayable ball relief and drops his ball using lateral relief. So we know that's a 2 club length relief area semicircle. He asks Big P to pick up his provisional ball, which is on the fairway. Andy, the average golfer, plays his next stroke into a greenside bunker. As he starts walking towards the green, only 15 metres on, he sees his original ball in bushes and realises then that the ball he dropped was not his. With the drop ball now near the green in a greenside bunker and his provisional ball in his pocket, or Big P's pocket, how must Andy, the average golfer, proceed, and are there any penalty strokes?
Bit of a tricky question, that one, Stuart. So the answer is that Andy's hit the original ball, so we've got 1. Then not sure if he's going to find it, so he's hit a provisional ball, very good. Potentially 3 off the tee. Goes down there, finds a ball. Now, you and I both know that there is no penalty if you just put a tee beside your any ball, lift it up, and if it's yours, then you just replace it, no penalty. If it's not, you can probably, maybe put that in your bag or check if there's other players that may own that ball. But what Andy's done is he hasn't identified it, thought that it's his and it's in an unplayable spot, and then dropped a ball thinking that he's taken an unplayable ball for that ball, which wasn't his. Effectively, what he's done is he's picked up the provisional, moved it to a different spot, substituted in another ball when not permitted, and also dropped it and played it from the wrong place. So 1 off the tee, or potentially 3 off the tee. It was 3 once that lost ball. Then the stroke, so 4, and the 2-shot penalty for playing from the wrong place. That's 6. So he lies 6 in the bunker, and a very good lesson, I hope, for going forward.
Well, as you and I have spoken about, so in the general area, you have 3 options for an unplayable, as we know, and you would go 19.2 A, B, and C. You have 3 options. And for 2 of those, you must know the location of your ball to take unplayable ball relief using lateral or back on the line. You must know. And the only option under 19.2 that you don't need to know the location of your original ball is, of course, stroke and distance, which you can take at any time, anywhere on the course.
Even when a ball is moving.
Even when a ball is moving. So in this particular case, yeah, he sort of proceeded under an inapplicable rule because he hadn't identified his original ball and theoretically wasn't allowed to take lateral relief or back on the line relief, but could proceed under stroke and distance. Yeah, so that's what I came up with, lying 6 in the greenside bunker. And to me, the issue was, and 14.7 covers this, about playing from a wrong place, and it's a general penalty, we know that, but whether it's a serious or not serious breach, and how you hole out if you have in fact played from a wrong place. And the rule's pretty clear that if it's not a serious breach, and we would assume in this particular case it wasn't, let's say where he has dropped was like 10 metres away from the provisional, maybe even worse conditions in longer grass, something like that. Therefore, you would deem that as not being a serious or not a serious breach. Excuse me. And then if you play from a wrong place when it's not a serious breach, you actually continue play the hole, having played from that wrong place, and you don't try to correct anything. But of course, we know if it is a serious breach, then there is a different procedure. And that is, you need to correct the mistake if you're able to do that. And it actually says, if it is a serious breach, the player must correct the mistake by playing out the hole with a ball played from the right place under the rules. If the player does not correct the mistake before making a stroke to begin another hole or for the final hole of the round before returning his or her scorecard, the player is disqualified. And then it throws in another wobbly saying, if you actually don't know whether it's serious or not, you'd actually play from 2 places. And almost like proceeding under 2 balls and stroke play, you actually play 2 balls. And you work it out, or the committee works it out later, whether it was a serious breach or not. So that provision's in there as well, under 14.7.
I was thinking about that. If you do believe it's a serious breach, then you could go back and play 1. And if you don't want to play 2, just do that option. Because if it is a serious breach, then you've done the right thing. If it's not a serious breach, then you're not going to get disqualified in a stroke play round, but you just get an extra 2 shots for another wrong place penalty.
That's what I think was hilarious. The last bit of 14.7, the very last bit, in fact, of that particular rule, that if you do play what you believe is from the wrong place, and then but also correcting it, playing from the wrong place, if you actually both are playing from the wrong place, so you actually haven't played a ball from where you should have played it from, you can actually end up with 4 penalty strokes, which I think is what you just said. Or, of course, it can be disqualification if, in fact, it was a serious breach.
Yes.
Which I think is pretty funny. So you think you're doing the right thing. Go, I'm not sure if I should be playing from there, but I'll play from here because I think that is the right place. But it ends up neither are the right place. And you're just compounding the error.
Yes. Yeah.
Which I think is pretty funny. It is funny. You think you're doing the right thing. The committee says, yeah, no worries. That 6 you had, yeah, it's a 10.
Rough.
Yeah, definitely. Anyway, obviously a complicated question, and I'm not sure if you had anyone with eagerness, replying into you and saying what they thought the answer was, but anyway.
No, that's a tough one.
I'd like to talk about, if you don't mind, your recent video about GU Lim at the Women's Asia Pacific Amateur.
Yep.
Which has actually got quite a few views. And if you haven't checked it out, please go and watch that. Just a great example of what not to do when your ball's in thick grass and bushes. And I just wanted your thoughts on, so we're talking about Rule 8.1 and taking actions to improve one of your conditions affecting the stroke, and which I think GU Lim did very, very well with great competency, whether she was that deliberate or, as you wrote in some of the comments, maybe just a little bit of inexperience there. But I was wondering, how often do you think that would happen at club golf, at clubland? How often would you have 4 guys playing, 4 women playing, and someone, backs into a tree, moves the branches out of the way? Unless you hear this distinct crack of a branch breaking, how often would another player in that group go, mate, that's a 2-stroke penalty. You've moved those branches too far. You've definitely improved your swing area. That's a 2-stroke penalty. How often do you reckon that would happen at club golf?
90, 95%. I mean, the thing is, you are allowed to fairly back into branch, and if it breaks, there's no penalty there. The tricky thing here, and as we saw in the video, that was just blatantly improving her conditions around the ball by removing the vine, removing the grass. That wasn't part of taking the stance. The players had already taken their stance, and they were just trying to work out their action of their downswing into the ball, backswing as well, I guess. But yeah, it's an interesting one. The rules say least intrusive.
Yeah.
And least intrusive is sort of how you think when you're looking at the situation, what the least intrusive is. So if you see a least intrusive path, and I saw one on the weekend at the Queensland PGA, where the player blatantly walked back into the reeds or the tussock to sort of help their backswing. Now, one person might see that as least intrusive, whereas another person, possibly me, wouldn't see that as least intrusive and would actually see that as they've gained a bit of an advantage there by pressing down the tussocks. It didn't look great, and it looked pretty blatant. But at the same time, that player could genuinely have thought, this is the least intrusive way I'm going to get to the ball. And so they don't get penalised if they believe, unless they're, the committee decides on top of them saying, no, there's no way, even if your ignorance of what least intrusive is, there is no way you're getting away with that one. But if the player genuinely, and that's where the word reasonable comes in. If it's reasonable to expect that this was least intrusive, then there is no penalty. I didn't think it was that reasonable, but that's sort of the differing sort of terms for where the player is going to get the penalty and where they're not.
Imagine in a professional event, say a 3-ball, and one player did something like what you just said, no video evidence, and another player in that group, whether they were the marker or not, doesn't matter, thought, not sure you're allowed to do that, doesn't say anything at the time, and as they're handing in their scorecards, just grabs an official aside and goes, I really didn't like what I saw on the 12th hole by Jack. He did this, just sort of run it by you. Of course, the official might say, did you raise it at the time? He's going to go, oh, no, I didn't want to do that. Didn't want to upset him, but I just didn't like it. I didn't think it was right. And there's no evidence. That wouldn't go very far, would it? You might ask the player.
No, not really. I mean, you'd say to the marker, the person in the group, whatever, spectator, well, show me what they did. You get their versions of the events. You go to the player, look, this has happened. Someone's made a query about what you did on the 14th hole or whatever it was. Can you show me what you did?
Yeah.
If you've got daylight and if you've got time,
drive them out
there. What did you do? And then come up with an answer, whether it's a penalty or not a penalty. It's a tough one because you don't have any evidence. It's A versus B. B's coach and caddy and sister and brother all go, yeah, they cheated, and A is standing there. Whilst that does have some weight, it can't have all the weight because you know that they're biased for whatever.
Yes, of course.
Player B says.
Don't care too much what the brother says.
But at the same time, the match committee, if they do have experience with A and B, they'll take that into account as well. We know
players have reputations, don't we?
Absolutely. And that's the thing about golf. You can't say to me, well, you shouldn't be biased. It should be all, as you come, and it's a different player on a different day. No, for me, it doesn't sit well. If you've done something in the past that's not good, you have to live with that. Whether you do your jail time, you still have, penalty or DQ, you still have to live with what you've done. If you're ignorant, you didn't actually know that there was a rule, yeah, that's your first and one and only excuse. But if you keep using that, then again you start getting this reputation.
Yeah, yeah. And obviously, player A will be saying, "Who, by the way, who raised this with you? Who actually dobbed me in? Who brought this up?"
Yeah, and there's going to be a small group of people. I mean, if it's a video evidence, like at the Masters or the US Open, the Open, it wouldn't matter,
No.
who brought it up. Usually
Yeah.
it's the other player's caddy, and they just do it on the slide. But on the sly, sorry. If it's video evidence, everyone would have seen it anyway. But yeah, if it's in a clubland or if it's in a little club championship or something like that, then there's not going to be too many people around, and you're going to know who brought it up and whatnot.
Would it be similar in a, say, professionals playing match play, and player A and B again, and A takes these actions, B goes, "I don't like the look of that." Player B, knowing the rules, might say, "Look, I'm going to request a ruling, make a claim," they might say, but request a ruling, ask for a ruling. Player A wins the hole, and B's requesting the ruling, and then B goes to you and say, "Look, 12th hole, this is what A did. I think it was a breach. I think I should have won the hole because of that, but A ended up winning the hole." Again, you'd have to just, two people, no video evidence. You'd have to drive A out to the spot and go, "Show me what you did," almost. And then he's probably going to give you a slightly watered down version of what he did anyway,
Well, that's when you're hoping that B gives you the slightly watered up version of, no, he didn't do that. He pressed it down. And then again, you just have to make a ruling, and that's what, as part of the committee. And most of the times you're going to side with the player.
Right. Okay.
Again, unless there's a reputation on the line. It's the same in footy, AFL. When you go to the tribunal, they might give someone a week because this is the first time they've ever done it, and they've got a good reputation. Whereas you might give someone else 5 or 6 weeks for the same thing because they've done it before, and this is the 4th time or the 5th time.
I should know better.
Yeah, and that it's a reoccurring event for them. So the only way to stamp it out is to really throw the book at them.
Now, prove me wrong, please, but I reckon 8.1 might be the rule that has the most amount of room for interpretation. Subject to your view on something, my view on something, player B's view on something. Surely that's the one that has the most room.
I'd agree with you on that. I saw a player taking a firm stance, digging their feet down in a bunker a few years ago at the Open Championship. And so suddenly I was like, well, if that's allowed at the Open run by the R&A, then that's the standard there. That I don't mind that. It's not up to me to determine that. But we're always, because of the varied nature of the golf rules, we're always looking for that black and white. We don't like grey, even though there is plenty of grey in this game. But we're always looking for what is the black and white.
Yeah. Agreed. Look, I must confess, on the 12th hole at Henley a few years ago, a guy's ball was in thick bushes, and with whatever iron he had, he was literally, with all of his force, smashing things out of the way so he could actually get a clearer path to the ball. And afterwards, I could not say nothing. It was just so, you use the word blatant a bit, right? And I don't mean just using your right foot to move something over a little bit. I mean like you was taking an axe to something. And I just said, you can't, I don't remember my exact words. I said, you can't do that. He goes, yeah, okay. Yeah, I was just really frustrated. And he did it. I said, too straight. He had 45 points on the day, which was reduced to 43. So he had a really, really good day. So he still had 43 points, playing off 20-something. But I called him on it, and I don't think I've ever called anyone else on this particular rule, ever. I mean, I see someone, least intrusive. I'm not going to run 50 metres over and go, mate, you can't do that or something. But this particular one, when he was taking axe to the bushes, was so wrong. It was so obvious. that I did call someone on this particular rule.
At
Yeah.
43, did he lose by a shot?
I don't remember. It was a few years ago now, but obviously had a very good day. But he eventually sort of called it on himself, the penalty. He goes, "Yeah, that's fair enough. I'll apply the 2 strokes." But I shouldn't have had to. I mean, he shouldn't anyway. He was just frustrated.
That's a good point. You shouldn't have to call him on it. He should call it on himself. But it's more embarrassing.
He was embarrassed. I think he was embarrassed. He said, "Yeah, no, you're right. I was just really frustrated." And his ball was, he's having such a great day, and he's put his ball in this bush, which he just couldn't play. He couldn't hit it.
Yeah.
Anyway, on rulings, if I may, just quickly, the story from a month or two ago at an event about a club well, where I had a bit of a run-in with a player's marker.
Yeah.
And without getting into the details, this particular person said to me, when I called the group aside after the 10th hole, they're walking off a par 3, I said, "Guys, I just need you for a minute. Just wanted to clarify what happened 2 holes ago." And we sort of got to the facts. The facts were all pretty straightforward. There wasn't really any confusion about the facts. It was just this player's marker who misunderstood a rule. And I had the unfortunate displeasure of this person saying to me, quote, "You're wrong. I know the rules. I will find the rule and prove you wrong," end quote, and then walked off. Now, you and I know this scenario, and the player's marker was, in fact, incorrect. And to his credit, he apologised to both myself and the player afterwards. Have you ever had a situation that I don't think that was ugly, it was just unnecessary, but have you ever had a situation in all of your refereeing experience where you've had a player clearly unhappy with what you've told him or her?
Yeah. Well, while I was away on my recent trip, I had 2. Sometimes you're there, as I said, you're just there to make or protect the field. And I had one where the player thought that their ball, or he had some interference with wheel tracks or tyre marks. Now, in my mind, they have to be deep, and if they are not I'm going to be more lenient if they're the closer to the fairway they are. His ball was 40 metres right of the fairway, so I'm not going to be lenient at all. That's just you couldn't tell. You could tell that a vehicle had sort of been there, but in the last month, the last year, or whenever, it could have been there 3 years ago. It was sort of just rolling hills of sand or something like that. So I denied relief, and I had them on the clock as well. So I was kind of just trying to get in and out as quick as possible. They didn't really kick up a stink too much. He just chipped the ball out, but then I later heard that he was asking who the hell was that referee, because to one of the tour staff. Who the hell is that referee? Cause,
he'll never work on an event ever again whilst I'm playing.
Because he was a bit harsh giving me that ruling. But, and this is the funny thing about referees on the tour. You're working, obviously you're working, the players are your boss, but it's not just that particular player is your boss. It's every player. So you've got to try and be fair. But, rest of the week, I didn't have a conversation. I didn't have a friendly chit chat. How are you going? How are your mum and dad? But I had other conversations. We're trying to hurry the group in front up for you, or hey guys, we're trying to get finished before daylight. So can you please go a bit faster? All those kind of conversations. Gave other people rulings in his group. So he sort of started, this was the first time he'd ever seen me. And then after 2 weeks, he sort of realised that I was going to be around for a bit longer. And as long as I'm fair, it might not have been fair to him on that particular ruling, because it was the first time I saw him and I had him on the clock. So he wasn't liking me. But as the 2 weeks went on, he realised that I was just there to do my job. And as long as it was perceived fair from him, that he softened stance towards me. So, you sort of have that sort of, the guest referees that come in and just do one event for the pros, because the pros are so in their little box and little circle of people that they know, and then if they don't know you, they are a bit taken aback when you deny them relief for something.
Like, who are you to come in and... Because Ralph would have given me relief.
Correct.
Referee Ralph.
Yeah, who gave me relief from something last week, that type of thing. But once they start realising that you're going to be here for a while, as long as you're fair, it might not be a nice ruling, but as long as you're fair,
consistent,
they'll accept that. Now, I had another one, and the other one, in the past, I possibly could have given this one, but it was... his ball had come to, and this was in Cairo, and they had a lot of, because it's desert, obviously, it's sand everywhere. There's these little plastic pipes for irrigation throughout the rough. So they've got plants planted there, and they'll just have, there's pipes everywhere. I mean everywhere, not, it's almost more pipe than sand. This guy, his ball comes to rest underneath this sort of tree, and he's just off the cut mark, so he really needs to... He had a terrible drive on 17, but he really needed to go eagle birdie, possibly to make the cut, maybe birdie. Anyway, he's hit this terrible drive, and he's wanting free relief. And I sort of go down there, and he goes, and I go, I don't think that you're going to hit that pipe. It was very similar to the Brooks Koepka one.
Ryder Cup?
At the Ryder Cup.
Yeah.
It was very similar, and I had that in my mind. I was like, there is a possibility that this guy hits it down on the ball to pop it out to the 18th fairway, which that didn't seem as reasonable as he was selling it. But there is a possibility that he could hit this pipe. But I don't, in my mind, think that is a reasonable shot, and he is just trying to get relief from this crappy situation. So it wasn't the fact that he couldn't have tried to play that shot and hit. Like, if you gave him 100 balls, or if you gave him 3 balls and it wasn't in the second round, he could have absolutely taken his wedge and hit that pipe. But I didn't think that was reasonable. So I denied him relief. But I denied him relief and then offered him a second opinion. I said, look, I can get you a second opinion. And he sort of, he was short with me and said no. And I said, are you sure you don't want a second opinion? No. And so I just left. Oh, God. Oh, so he proceeds to hit the ball. And the reason that I mainly didn't give him relief, because there were rocks and quite large stones. So the fact that you would try and drive down into the ball just to hit that pipe, you're probably going to do some kind of damage if you hit your stones and blah, blah, blah. So I was like, no, that's not a reasonable shot. No person would actually try and attempt that shot with that level of trying to hit your club down into the ground. Like, you could attempt it.
Angle of attack. Yeah.
You'd try and knife the ball or something like that, right? You wouldn't angle of attack to try and be reasonably be reasonable that you're going to hit the pipe.
Yeah.
Anyway, I drove over to the other side of the fairway because I've got to keep watching this group because they're behind.
On the clock. Okay.
They're not on the clock, but they were close. I should have. But at the same time, I was just, hey guys, we need to keep going. I asked them really nicely, twice. They didn't make up time. So that means my group behind, the last group of the day, had a very high chance of having to come back on a Saturday morning.
To finish the second round.
And it's finished the second round. They're going to probably miss the cut. So, they would have been devastated about that. And there was no need. This group had lost time. Anyway, regardless of that, I drove over to the other side of the fairway, keep watching this group. This guy tries to knife his ball, hits a tree, down into scrub, lost ball.
Oh. So he got the drop after all.
Oh. So I drive back. We do a little bit of a search. This is eating up time. I'm like, this is ridiculous. The people are standing on the tee. Actually, the guys on the tee, they didn't realise that we were sort of doing this down here. They just hit. Luckily, they didn't hit us, but they just hit, so that was good. But then he, okay, I'm going to take stroking distance. I go, okay, great. You've got one club length.
I was going to say, he got his drop after all, didn't he?
He drops his ball for a penalty. It comes to rest in a sort of a shitty spot up against a pipe.
Oh.
This time it was blatantly up against the pipe, and the downswing would have hit the pipe before the ball.
First.
So they said, okay, now you get free relief.
Yeah.
And you've got another club length. We finally got him back into play. He chipped it out into a bunker, chipped it out of the bunker, put it on the green, and must end up with
7 or 8 or something. Yeah.
It was ridiculous. And then obviously Mr. Cup probably hates me forever, but sometimes it just doesn't go your way.
Talk about rubbing salt into the wound, though, hitting that ball that he didn't want to play from that spot and then losing it.
Yes.
God, that would have been just an awful feeling.
It's funny. You sort of, as a human being, you've got these emotions, these feelings that you put on. You don't want to be biased. You're trying to look after the whole field, as I keep saying. But you're always going to have human emotions. And if I give someone a tough, not a wrong ruling, if I give someone a tough ruling, I'm always hoping that they will play a good shot after.
Exactly. Yeah. But it won't be an issue.
Yeah. If I give someone a soft ruling, I'm like, oh, I really need to give them free relief there. I'm always hoping they stuff up. If they stuff up, they get their karma.
It's a bit of balance.
It's a balance. But to see this guy, give him a tough ruling, then he attempts the shot because he's trying to make birdie to make the cut.
Possibly make the cut, yeah.
And he hits the tree and loses the ball. I felt terrible. It is what it was.
Very good. Are we ready for GRQOTW?
Yes, we can smash.
Is that enough for today?
Yeah, absolutely. I actually, just reiterating, I did talk about Morocco, didn't I, in 71. Cairo, beautiful. We got to the pyramids. Just like what I'm feeling at the moment, I was a bit under the weather. Actually, that was food poisoning on the Wednesday. So that wasn't great, but managed to get to the pyramids. Yeah, they look awesome, amazing. Whoever built them, we'll never know. But they're phenomenal things. A lot of the people were like, oh, they're not as big as they thought they would be. But I
every bit of it, are they?
I personally thought they were pretty big. Considering they're made by humans, not back whatever how many
long
years
time ago. Yeah,
people think. So I thought they were pretty amazing, but they're just in the middle of the sort of sandy national park, I guess they would say, and then the rest of Cairo is around it. Cairo's huge. It's a bit of a dirty city, a bit of an untidy city. I mean, we were just driving the bus down the road, and I saw one of their citizens just walk out into the street and just throw rubbish on the street. So I wasn't impressed by that. I thought that was disgusting. Anyway, but that sort of, with all the litter and stuff, you sort of get the feeling that is just normal. But then Cairo is sort of here along the Nile. The Nile's a bit dirty, but they're building a new Cairo, and they're going to sort of move people off the Nile or off around the motorways right in the heart of Cairo. They're going to move people over to New Cairo, and then east of New Cairo, they've got they're going to build a new sort of suburb called the capital or something like the capital, and they're going to build all the government buildings there as well. So, I would recommend going there. It was eye opener for me, but that was ticked off my 6th continent, so pretty happy with that one. And then made my way back last week, and now, as I said, we've got 6 more weeks till Christmas.
And a lot of golf. happening.
Yeah, and a lot of golf happening. Are you going to get down to the Oz Open in 2 weeks?
I'm working all 4 days.
Oh, you're volunteering.
I've got heaps of golf coming up. I've got the Australian Open. Well, I've got the qualifying round for the Australian Open.
Yeah, that's at Spring
And then
Valley.
I'm doing the Dunes Medal, and then the Australian Open, then I'm doing Cathedral Invitational, and then the Super Six, and then the Victorian Amateur, and then the Sandbelt Invitational.
So
between now and Christmas.
I haven't started. I was just about to start studying the new rules or the updated changes, and we want to do a podcast as soon as we can. However, you've still got 6 more weeks of 2019 rules.
I've got a lot of golf between now and Christmas.
You really won't want to start studying the changes until 1 January almost.
No, I need to do some prep.
So that's going to be an interesting situation for you. I don't think my next tournament won't be until start of Feb, I think. So you'll be doing a lot of golf officiating.
Yes, a lot
for me.
I do.
All right, very good. What's the GRQOTW for 72?
Well, I must admit this is a lot easier than Andy the average golfer situation. So this is pretty straightforward. Should be. Helen finds her ball in a red penalty area and moves a loose impediment next to her ball. However, in doing so, her ball moves. Thinking that might be a penalty, and in an attempt to avoid the penalty, she then decides to pick up her ball and take a lateral relief from the penalty area. How many penalty strokes in total for Helen?
Yeah, that's a good one. That is a good one. Let us know if you've got an answer to that one. Otherwise, listen into episode 73 and we'll tell you. Thank you, Stuart.
My pleasure.
Episode 72. Good luck with your refereeing coming up. And
Thank you.
We'll talk again soon.
Okay, thanks, Blakey. See you then.